Basketball is a very popular team sport where two teams with 5 players each try to score points by shooting a ball through the basketball hoop. So these are the fouls in basketball. So specifically personal fouls. First is holding. Holding is when a player uses their hands to grab their opponent to impede or prevent them from moving or advancing with or without the ball. Second is illegal or moving pick or screen. Is when a player fails to maintain a set position while setting a screen or pick. Screens must be performed in all standstill manner, an offensive move in which a player uses their body to block the defensive player who is guarding one of their teammates. Next is tripping. Is when a player uses their legs or foot to throw their opponent's balance. Next is elbowing. Is when a player excessively swings their elbows and hits another player. Next is hand check. Is when a player continually uses their hands on an opposing player. This foul is typically called on defenders at the perimeter to keep safe distance between the ball handler and the basket. Next is charging. Is when an offensive player makes contact with a defender who has established position in front of an offensive player with or without the basketball and is not moving. Since courts identify it by having a charge circle marked below the basket. If a defender is outside the circle with their feet planted, it is a charge. And last personal foul is blocking. Is when a defender makes contact with an offensive player without establishing position, without giving proper space, or is in the charge circle. So here are some fouls in basketball. First is double foul. It happens when two personal fouls in basketball committed by opponents against each other at the same time. Second is technical foul. It occurs when a player or coach displays unsportsmanlike behavior such as foul language, obscene gestures, or arguing. Two technical fouls will result in an ejection from the game. It does not involve player contact or the ball but is instead about the manners of the game. Third is flagrant foul. Is when a player performs an act of violence that can seriously injure or harm others on the court. This can be unintentional or deliberate. Flagrant fouls can also result in player ejections at the referee's direction. This includes hitting, kicking, and punching. Next is offensive foul. It is when an offensive player committed illegal contacts offensively when trying to get past defense by pushing or holding opponents. The most common offensive fouls are charging fouls and illegal screens. Next is defensive foul. It is when a defensive player uses illegal contact in trying to stop the offensive players. Defenders are allowed to move sideways and backward to block an attacker's path, but moving forward or pushing the attacker backward is not allowed. And last but not the least is shooting foul. It is whenever a defender commits a foul on the opponent while they are shooting. The player who suffered the foul gets to shoot free throws. If the shooter was attempting a 3-point shot, they get 3 free throws. Or if it is a 2-point attempt, only 2 free throws. So, here are the violations in basketball sports. Traveling, carrying or palming, double dribble, held ball, backcourt or over and back, kicking, goaltending, free throw violations, and various time restrictions. First is traveling. It is when a player takes more than 2 steps between dribbles or without dribbling the ball. Traveling can also occur when a player who has picked up the dribble switches his or her pivot foot. Next is carrying or palming. It's when a player dribbles the ball in a manner that has their palm too far to the side or underneath the ball. Next is double dribble. It is when a player picks up their dribble to establish their position and then restarts their dribble, or when a player dribbles the ball with 2 hands at the same time. Next is held ball. It is when two players gain possession of the ball and a brief battle for the basketball occurs. The referee will award possession to one team, alternating which teams gets the ball each subsequent time it occurs. Next is backcourt or over and back. It is when an offensive player brings the basketball over the half-court line and then retreats back over mid-court during their possession. Next is kicking. It's when a player simply kicks the ball. Free throw violations. Every player must retain in place and the ball is shot with a free throw shoot if the offense travels into the free throw lane prior to the shooter's release of the ball. Then the shot does not count. And then the various time restrictions. For 3-second violation, offensive players cannot stand the K for more than 3 seconds. For the 5-second violation inbounding, a player must inbound the basketball within 5 seconds after the referee hands it to them to avoid a turnover. 5-second violation offensive. An offensive player must pass, shoot, or dribble the basketball within 5 seconds if being guarded by a defensive player who is within arm's reach. And 10-second violation, players must advance the ball over mid-court line within 10 seconds to avoid turnover.